Hey there, welcome to Remgur AI. How can I help you?
Tell me about the services that Remgur offers.
I can certainly tell you about our services. One moment while I retrieve that information for you. Remgur AI offers a range of services focused on helping businesses implement AI-driven automation solutions.
Can you give me an example of content creation automation?
Remgur AI can automate content creation by streamlining the workflow from brief to publication. This can involve AI generating outlines or drafts, followed by automated brand and SEO checks, client approvals, and scheduling across various platforms like blogs and social media. This approach helps save time and ensures consistency. Would you like to know more about how this could apply to your business?
As you can see, that is how our RAG chatbot for this particular company worked, right? Now let's just see how we can build that. Let me just go back to n8n. And there are a couple of steps over here, right? So first of all, we'll start off with creating an agent on 11 Labs. So 11 Labs helps us create voice agents very easily. Let's go to their website. This is the website. Let's go to 11labs.io/app/agents, and this is where you'll end up. What you can do is create a new agent. Click on blank agent, and then you can give it some name, right? You'll just put it as test and create agent. So it will give of sort where you have to add in a few more details over here, right? So what you can do is first of all select your language. If it is English, just keep it as it. If you want to add new languages, you can probably just add Hindi as well over here, right? So let me do that. Okay. Scroll down the first message. So what do you exactly want the AI agent to say when it starts off, right? So I can probably say something like, "Hey there, welcome to Remgur." Yeah. So that's basically the entity for which I'm building this bot. How can I help you? Okay. If you scroll down, system prompt. So this basically tells what kind of an agent this is, right? And accordingly, the agent would act. Put the description as a customer care agent. Or and this prompt, right? Now you can be as descriptive as possible for this prompt. That will help. So what I'll do is I'll quickly go to Claude. And in Claude, I'll probably put this prompt up, right? Create a system prompt for a warm, friendly voice agent who provides info about Remgur AI consultancy firm. It has access to your knowledge base, which contains docs like about us, privacy terms and conditions, landing page content via n8n. Right? This is the prompt that I've put in. And you can just do a little more on trial and error to kind of get to the right point, right? But basically, this is what I want. So I'll do a quick copy paste over here. And that kind of gives it the system prompt, right? Going down, dynamic variables, all of this you can ignore. LLM you can probably select as per yours. So I probably just go with Gemini 2.5 flashlight. Again, scrolling down, temperature you can set it to, let's just say 0.2, not too much because otherwise the LLM would go haywire, right? And answer very over creatively. But we just keep it a little creative but more deterministic so that it sticks to the data it's able to read. That's all. Let's go down. Tools. I'll switch on detect language so that in case I switch over to Hindi as well, it's able to detect that. And then finally, what I have to add here is, let me just save it first. What I'll have to add is the custom tools, right? So this will basically tell it to call n8n. So at the backend, what's happening is you have an agent built on 11 Labs, and that has connection to this n8n flow, right? And this n8n flow has a database of sort, right? A vector database basically, which is basically your RAG, from which it calls, looks up some data, and then gives it back to n8n, and then n8n passes it on to 11 Labs. So that's how basically the entire flow works. So custom tools. Let me just show you the n8n flow once again. This is basically the webhook that basically calls this flow. It does the entire processing, checks the vector store, the database. I'll come to that in a moment. And then it responds back to 11 Labs, right? And that is how you basically get that data onto 11 Labs, and that 11 Labs agent is able to talk to you. Okay. So let me go back here. Let me add a tool, and I'll add an n8n tool. What you can also do is add a webhook tool. This is what you'll have to click. But when you click, form of this sort basically pops up, right? And then you have to add in these details. So what you'll have to do first of all is name it as n8n so that it's able to recall correctly. Description, use this tool to access the knowledge base. Method will be post. the URL. Now, if I go back to my setup, right, in n8n, there is a webhook node. So how will you basically create it is go to this plus button, say webhook, start a webhook, right? When you click that, basically this node pops up. So if I open this, you have a test URL and you have a production URL. Whenever you're doing your testing, you can go ahead and copy this one. So I'll do this. I'll copy this one over to here. That is what I've copy pasted. Whenever you want to finally test it out and then finally go into production, you can copy paste the production URL, right? No other changes as such required. You can change this path over here so that it reflects here as well to make it more custom, but that's again totally optional. And then finally, one thing we have to change is respond. So this respond is immediately by default. You have to change it to using respond via webhook so that after all the processing is done, the response is given back via the webhook node, which is the last node in the chain, right? This one. So that is something you'll have to add post that. When I scroll down, one thing to add is the query parameters. So if I add a new parameter over here, which is something like this, right? So what it has to do is, again, whenever I talk to the 11 Labs agent, it has to identify what exactly is the question that this person is asking and send that question to n8n, right? The AI agent, so that at the backend, it's able to process that information from the vector database and then give it back to it. So here in the description, I'll add, ask the user what question or questions they have, right? And then it's a string variable. They identify this question. It is required. It's an LLM prompt. And then description is question from the user. That's all. So this is something you'll add and then you can just close it, save it and close it so that you have this n8n webhook added over here. That's all. That is all the changes that you have to do here. And this will basically create your AI agent on 11 Labs. Now let's come back here, right? So that was essentially step one, creating the LLM labs. Now next is creating this vector database, right? So even all your company documents and stuff like that should remain handy for that AI agent to pick it up, right? And for that, we'll use a vector database. A vector database essentially is like a very efficient way of storing data so that it's easy for retrieval, right? You don't store it as such as documents, because if you do that and if you have like thousands of documents, right, the AI agent will take a long time to like retrieve those, understand what data is that, and then pick the relevant data and respond back. So your caller will be like left hanging for a few minutes, right? That will not be a great user experience. So that's why you have a vector database where it is stored as vector embeddings, like, and then you can easily retrieve it. So what we are going to do here is, first of all, I'll save all those documents into a folder in a Google Drive, right? So this is how it looks like. So this is basically all the documents that I have. I have like an about us page, a terms and conditions, the about us page for that particular company, the landing page, the privacy policy, terms and conditions, all those documents I just thrown it over here, right? What I'll do is, first of all, I use a get folder node from Drive. So again, I'll search here Drive. Yeah, search for files and folders. Click that. So you have all this, right? Let me just go back to my flow. Yeah. So you open this, create a credential to Google Drive. Now this is something I've covered in one of my previous videos, so I'll not go into that. But basically, you'll have to go to Google Cloud and create a new credential, create a new OAuth client, and then put in those details over here. So that's step one. Step two is file folder. So that is something that we're trying to look for. It's a search operation, search file folder name. And then here, limit is something I'll just put 50. And then in the filter, it is more important that you'll add a few configuration items. So first and foremost is drive. Drive is my drive, which is basically the default one, my drive. And then second is folder. So folder name also I'll give it so that it's able to pick it correctly, right? So from the list, mdocs is the only folder I have currently in this my drive. So it's able to fetch it correctly, right? That's all. When I execute this one, so let me just enable this back. Let me click on this. So if I open, it's able to correctly pull up 4 documents, right? Which is landing page content, about us, privacy policy, and terms and conditions. Next is download files. So this is the next node I'll again create from here. So drive and then download a file, right? This is something I'll pick it up from here. Let me open this one. So again, connected to my Google Drive account, credential, file, operation is download, and then this, right? So here, if you look at the left side, the input of it, you'll have certain IDs coming for each and every content. So you have 4 items in that drive. What n8n does is it'll individually pick out all of those 4 different records and then do the operation on top of it. So I'll just simply drag this and put it over here. So JSON ID is over here, and then options, right? What I'll do is, what are the type of files it basically can download? So it has Google Docs, converted to text, full drawings, if there are any, converted to images, JPEGs, slides into MS PowerPoint, and sheets into CSV, right? And file name can also be picked up from here. So you have all those different 4 files as an output that has come up, right? So you have file name is lead landing page content, because it was all the 4 word docs, so it's converted into txt file simply, and then you have 4 different files over here. Okay. Next is extract from file. Again, just to extract the relevant information into some kind of a temporary storage, right, from the text file. So that is what exactly this has done. Your input name remains data for all of those different files. So that's why I mentioned as data over here. And then the destination output file could be the file name. That is something I've copy pasted over here, right? So you have all the different data space, or you can even remove this data, but I've just kept it like data space, the file name. And this basically has all the information present in that particular file, right? That's all. And next and foremost important is this vector database part of it, right? Now I have extracted all the information from the drive, kept it into a temporary location. Now I need to save it in a very efficient manner. And that is where the Pinecone vector database is something that I'll use. How will you get that? Again, click on the plus button, search for Pinecone vector store. Here you can be like add documents to vector store, right? This one, right? This is basically what you want to do. Go back to my original one. So here, first and foremost, again, connected to the credentials. It's very easy. I mean, to do that, you just have to get the API key over here. Let me just go back to Pinecone. So I've come to Pinecone. I'll log in with my Google account. First and foremost, what you have to do is go to indexes and create a new index. You can give it some name. Let's just say test. Select the text 3 embedding small probably model from OpenAI, because this is the most efficient one. Change the dimension to 1536. Go down, rest everything same remains the same, and then create an index. So once you have set up your indexes, go to API keys, and here you can create a new API key, right? You can give it some name like RAGBot, create an API key. That will basically give you this, right? You can just show it for yourself and copy it, and then just close it. Now go back to n8n. Here, create a new credential and just simply paste your API key over here and save it, right? That should be it. Next is insert documents is what you want to do. So you have creating that vector database records, right? From list. So here, when you click on it, you'll basically see all the different, the different namespaces that you've created, right? Here, test is also visible because I just created it over here. I'll select Anchor for now. Embedding batch size, I'll keep it to 200. And then namespace, right? Namespace is something that you can uniquely name it so that it's basically kept in a very sorted manner inside your index, right? So I'll just name it as company docs, and that's all. I'll just click on execute, and basically what that does is creates, first of all, extracts all this information on the left side, and then creates a vector embedding of all of it and stores it, right? Another thing to do here is, first of all, connect the embedding model. So you can just click on, let's just say, add this one. An embedding model, you can just scroll down because I have selected OpenAI embedding model, the 3.1, right? That is something I'll do here as well. So the text embedding 3 small model is something that I'll select. That's all. Bring it over here. And then default data loader, you can just, splitting is something that you can do custom. Make sure this is load all input data so that everything goes in. And then finally to it, you can add a dex splitter, which has a chunk size of 100 and then chunk overlap is 0. That's all. So this is done. So what happens is, once you have created this, let me go back to Pinecone again. Databases, indexes. Let me go back to the Remler one. So this is something I've run. If I check my namespaces, I'll have one for company docs, right? Which has like 45 records. So this basically, it has distributed into different smaller chunks, and then it has basically created that embedding over here. Okay. So let's go to n8n. So this is step 2 that is done. You have created your vector, set up your vector store, vector database, right? Now let's come to the RAG system actually. So now you have all of your your vector database set up very well. Now you need an AI agent to basically retrieve that information, right? For that, we'll create this AI agent node. So let me go here. I'll select this AI agent itself. it basically gives you this option. Let me remove this one. Let me open this. Is your tools agent prompt defined below. Change it from chat river because you have to basically get an input from the web, right? Next is prompt user. So this is something where you get the question basically, and for that you'll basically do a test run over here, right? Just to listen, and you can do an example. But basically, question is something that will come up. So you can mention it as json.body.question because that's the name of the variable that you have defined in your webhook call as well, right? From the 11 labs page. If I scroll down, you'll basically just write a simple system message. You are a helpful assistant who always checks the vector database for relevant info before responding to any questions. That's all. And then again, add a chat model over here, which is something I'll select OpenAI 4o Mini. Then tools, I have to add a Pinecone vector store, right? So in tools, you can select here, and then you can type in Pinecone vector store. This will basically open this up. Select this one. Again, connect your Pinecone API account, the same one that you set up earlier. Retrieve documents is now the action because now you don't have to insert documents, you have to retrieve it. And this is basically the description I'll put in. Call this to retrieve information about Remger company, like about their services, terms and conditions, and privacy policy. Pinecone vector base is Remger, like I selected earlier. Limit is 1000, I can keep it. Include metadata is yes. And then namespace is the company docs, the namespace that I mentioned earlier, right? That's all. And then find the embedding. The embedding model should be again the same embedding model, which is basically text embedding 3 small. Okay. So this is my agent that is set up, which again retrieves the information now from the vector database, right? Now the last part is to connect basically to the AI agent that we have created on 11 labs. And for that, like I said, create a webhook node, first of all, which has the test URL, the production URL. So this URL is something you can pick up. Authentication is not required. Respond using webhook node. And next up is respond to 11 labs. So again, from the check for a respond to webhook node. Here again, first incoming item or all incoming items is something that you can choose. Typically, because there is just a single answer that you have to port out, you can even keep it as first incoming item. That should be fine. And that's it. That pretty much covers your entire pipeline. So you start off, right? Once again, step 1 was to create the 11 labs AI agent. That is something that we did over here. Next step is creating the vector store. So I gave it connection to my Google Drive to basically download all the files, keep it in a temporary location, and then send it over to the vector database, right? The Pinecone database. Next up is now creating the RAG system, right? So I've created an AI agent, which basically retrieves information from this Pinecone vector store. And then I gave it a connection to the 11 labs agent, right? Through webhooks. So that's the first and the last node. And finally, if you want to, let's just say, add it to your web page, right? To your website as a chatbot, that is something that you can easily do by this, right? So you just have to simply add this script in your HTML of your website, and then automatically this particular conversational agent button would be showing up on your website. You just have to change agent ID, which is over here, with the ID that is mentioned over here, right? This is simply replace it over here, something like this. And then that's all. It will basically get added to your website. That's it from my side. Thank you for joining in.